Open the hearing, or continue the hearing on Highland Ave. And why don't you bring us up to speed on what's happened, because.
Sure, so there are some new things in your packet that at the table that we just got today. You should have it right in front of you.
Oh, this is yours.
So there are a number of things in here that, there's probably only one thing that you've seen in here, which is the Design Review Committee notes regarding Highland Ave from November 14th. So these got sent a long time ago, right when they got written, but printed those off. So these are, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things related to Highland Ave subdivision. If you're looking at, it's this one with the town seal on the top. It's saying trees will be preserved, trees that will be preserved should be shown on the clearing and grubbing plan. There's some relief related to the front setback, which we wouldn't talk about at the moment. It was recommended to move a proposed tree in the front yard closer to Highland Ave to create a defined tree canopy along the street. And a little bit on where some specific bushes would be, and then a lighting plan. So that's everything from design review. There are basically 3 kind of talking points tonight that are still needed to get flushed out. One is related to the drainage, and we'll get a little bit more of that from Beth when the time comes. But basically VHB and the applicant have been conversing about potential options in order to contain the water on the site and or direct it to the stormwater infrastructure. So one is the drainage analysis. The other is the homeowners association document. That is a document that this was just an exchange of emails today.
Yeah.
So this was from legal counsel that basically said that they needed more than 18 hours to review the homeowners association document. And that that council will get back to us within a few days in order to, I guess they had some, you can see this, they had some concerns related to some of the provisions that were located in the draft HOA given by the applicant. So that's the second issue. We have drainage analysis, homeowners association, and then even somewhat related to the drainage analysis is the money that's associated with paying VHB. So there was the contract and the scope for VHB to review the all of the drainage was because this was a town venture, it was a joint venture between the town and the applicant. So that's why we got an outside drainage consultant. The scope was pretty defined. I believe it was 2 reviews. But then throughout the process, it just ended up being more reviews that were necessary by VHB. So they've been doing work, and to put it bluntly, they need more money. So that's one thing that we need. That's a kind of a minor thing. It's just something that we would need to authorize. I mean, we would have to authorize, at this point, it would be for 53G to make the applicant pay for the rest of that. And those are the 3 major conversations. Most of the work that has happened in the past month, almost all of it is, I would say, 75% of it is minor that they have agreed to, and maybe 20 to 25% have been kind of this back and forth where an option is given to the applicant by VHB, and then multiple options are given back from the applicant, and then it's just this constant conversation. So because of that, they've gone through more hours. So that's something that we would need to talk about. The biggest thing at the moment clearly is the drainage analysis. that we've been still going back, I mean, so the VHB gave a memo today, and that's also in your packet. It was given to me today at 5 something. Simply because there had been back and forth even today. So that's where we are at the moment. The largest issue is finalizing some drainage infrastructure. Beth should speak to that first. I believe that's kind of the bigger issue, and then the other 2 issues with the homeowners association and the money associated with the increased amount of reviews are less important, but still important, but less important than the drainage infrastructure.
So there's plans in these letters dated today, right? Today's the
Correct.
11th.
They are dated today.
Where are these plans?
I was hoping there'd be paper copies. Okay, so I have them here, revised December 11th. I sent them to the board the second I got them. I guess there are paper copies as well, but yes, we got them today.
And I just don't want to lose track of this stuff because it's, I don't know, it's where I fall in this. It's this design review stuff, which the light fixtures, the trees that we want to have identified. I don't know if that's going to be in the new submittal, but I just want to list these things that we're going to want to look at. The DRC recommended 2 street trees on Highland Ave, a mix of better buffer of evergreen trees along the north edge with the neighbors, abutters, and we want to make sure that if these lots get sold, that we end up retaining that buffer in the rear setbacks. So I think that has to go somewhere in language we've got.
Well, if you're talking about landscaping, then yes, that would be in.
Landscaping's different, but-
Well, if you're talking about distance between,
Well, if we're going to grant a reduction in the front setback.
we are not.
Oh, okay.
We
so
can't.
we're not. Okay,
So that was actually more directed to
Yeah.
ZBA.
I see.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
then, the question's how to make sure that we retain the rear setback is if this project's sold, that the lots maintain that rear setback.
We could.
I don't want this just to go off into the ether.
Yeah, I mean, well, there could be a condition that allows for more, but not, we could do a condition that doesn't require a waiver, meaning we can't say you have to have the front setback too small.
Correct.
What we could say is that you could have the rear setback be X, I believe.
Yeah, I don't think that there would be any reason that
Well,
that would be a
before we
problem.
vote, I want to make sure that's locked in, so I don't know how we do that.
No, we'd have to craft that language. and
We'd
make
have
sure
to
it was
craft
in.
that language, and to be honest, I'm sitting here and I'm staring at a whole bunch of question marks. So,
Well, I think we should start with the drainage.
Let's
I
start with the
think,
drainage.
Beth could give a quick recap, and we start there.
I mean, yeah, because let's start with the drainage and move directly then to the HOA, which I now know stands for Homeowners Association, not High Occupancy Aircraft. I'm like, what the
We
heck
would
is
be in
it?
big trouble if that's what.
I know, I know.
I know, HOA, what the heck's an
Definitely.
HOA? Okay,
So I'm not.
So I could bring up maybe the VHB memo.
Beth, have you seen these plans from today?
So I have not seen.
This is the
like, a
VHB memo.
Final, this is what Luke sent out.
That's Luke just sent that at 5:11 or 5:20.
So, there's been a lot of back and forth in the past 48 hours about options for the drainage along Highland Ave. Our concern and VHB's concern, and maybe if you just want to go to the drainage sheet.
could we get those paper copies, please?
Yeah, there's some-
Craig, could we get those? My eyesight is not getting any better.
So
It's really good.
I know, it's the fly specs
grading,
that are the binder and grading.
The grading.
the ones with the
Just the one
color.
copy,
Love
or is there
chocolate chip
multiple? There's
No,
just
the
one
grading
copy.
plan, Brian.
I have a half-size
sorry.
set if you want that.
I don't know if it's in this set. It might be
It's a
separate.
grading plan, I don't know,
Well,
it shows the most recent
I'm
information.
not sure how
This is
well.
the grading plan.
Yeah, so, one of the concerns that VHB raised during their review was,
Which page
so
is
as
this?
the grading.
What happens
so-
today under
sorry.
very high flow conditions?
Sorry, just a sec. It's the grading plan, and it's called
Okay.
C4.
C4.
If you could just zoom out a little bit. So, this, where's 22 Highland? This is the existing building for 22 Highland Ave. And the town has a head wall, I think is right here. So what happens today is when the reservoir is high, and we get a lot of rain, the Sawmill Brook, which is dry probably half the time and flows some mostly little amount most of the time, but when there's runoff coming from overtopping from North Reservoir, it gets much bigger, so we get water that flows down. And under normal conditions, it goes into this is a head wall that that's right here, and then there's a drainage pipe, a town-owned drainage pipe that goes through here and goes out into Highland Ave. There's a culvert under Highland Ave. This is 22 Highland here. It's hard to see. Under very high flow conditions, all that water can't go into the head wall, and so it backs up and it overtops and it flows through the 22 Highland Ave property, and it comes out somewhere down here, somewhere through here, and it flows down Highland Ave and ultimately across Highland Ave. So the concern, and we've all seen that very high flow flooding condition over the years, the concern has always been the town is doing some drainage improvements out here. We are mitigating for up to and including the 25-year storm event. So anything above the 25-year storm event, there will still be some overtopping of this system. If we were to make improvements to include beyond the up to the 100-year storm event, it was like $1 million project and involved drainage improvements all the way down to the Aberdeen River. So the town, back in 2011, 2012, when we had this original study done, made the decision to do the slightly lower cost, a little bit less. There's still some impacts during these very large storm events. So like a 50 and 100-year storm event, you could still potentially see, depending on where the reservoir is to start with. So we're talking about those level of storm events here. So the applicant has installed like a 15-inch drain pipe that goes here and ties into the town's drainage system. But for the 25-year storm event, there'll be no flooding of the road. But once we get past that, we'll have some overtopping of this drain pipe. And so what we've been working with the applicant is figuring out where that flow can go so that it doesn't. Our concern was, as they had it originally designed, that it was going to flow down the road and it was going to potentially go across the street and impact the houses across the street on Highland Ave. So there's been a lot of back and forth over the past, like I said, 48 hours about how to design that. So we've basically come up with kind of a low point in the road here, where when it gets high enough, it will overtop and flow through the corner of this lot 1 across the sidewalk into a swale that's been graded out here in the grass strip. And that swale won't contain the full 100-year flows, but I think it's reasonable to expect some flooding of Highland Ave during a 100-year storm event. So we feel, VHB and I feel like this is an adequate solution, and then the applicant has added some additional small berm on the opposite side of the street to keep those flows from crossing into those properties.
On the opposite side of the street, is there a sidewalk, or is it just the right?
Yeah, so there's a grass strip and a sidewalk on both. There's grass strip and sidewalk on both sides of Highland Ave in this area.
Berm would be where?
In the grass strip. It's just kind of a little hump in raising the grass strip a little bit. So we're recommending, VHB is recommending the applicant install a new curb in this area to help with that, and then this swale. And so I haven't seen like the final plan set with this information. I haven't looked at this exact plan. I think there's been snippets that have been circulated by the applicant, and VHB has looked at it, but we haven't seen the full plan set like you have on your table now. So that's kind of where we stand with the drainage. And VHB, I think in the letter that they issued at 5:30 tonight, they had talked to the applicant late afternoon today and were satisfied with the design that had been proposed.
I know, because I gotta say, you know, because I sort of live up in that general neck of the woods. And I have to tell you, I mean, it does concern me because the population up there is so much denser than it used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, there's many more homes.
So there's no question that the road, that there's still gonna continue to be water flowing in the road, whether this development goes forward or not. Like, that's not,
Oh,
this
yeah,
development has
yeah.
nothing to do with that. What we're trying to make sure is that we don't push that water across the street to
Yeah,
those
yeah,
houses
yeah,
on the
yeah,
other
yeah.
side of Highland Ave, that we keep it
I'm with you. I'm
kind
with
of
you.
where it has always gone today.
But 25, those of us who remembered Winchester High School getting shut down for months after a 100-year, right? And then there were like three, I don't know, how many years separated the two times it was shut down. But I know 25 might sound reasonable.
Right, so
but
that it is
25
contained for the 25-year storm.
Right,
So
right, no, I
it's
hear you, but-
above that. So, I mean, it's
Fearing
a,
that we're going to see a lot of
so
flooding.
that's a decision that was made irrespective of this project by the town many years ago in terms of how we were going to.
The town, was that the planning board?
No, it's
No.
town manager,
Town
engineering,
managers
DPW.
changed, But why
Well, the project's already been funded at fall town meeting this year, so we're sort of,
Yeah.
um,
So,
stuck with 25-year, oh golly.
So, I'm trying to, in 20 seconds, wend my way through this VHB memorandum, which is impossible.
Right.
And I'm just going to skip right to the end, because I'm ignorant of a few of the things that the planning board is being asked to consider. In particular, where it says, "We respectfully defer to the planning for determination on this item," and I have no idea what this item actually means.
which number are you looking at?
So let's look at comment number,
What's at the last page, right?
yeah, we're on the last page. Let's go to comment number 14. Applicant's request for relief from TSS removal requirements. Can you define what that is?
So there's a small section of the roadway, there's a catch basin at the very end of the road near, lot 1.
okay, thank you.
It's actually.
Oh, here, right?
No, in the road
Oh,
further up, yeah.
Do.
Yeah, right there. So there's a portion of the drainage, and actually this may have sort of been addressed by the regrading that had to be done for this swale, but there was a small portion of their road that was discharging into Highland Ave, without, like, discharging into a deep some catch basin, which is, kind of part of the whole, mass stormwater policy. So we all felt like it was such a small area that we weren't concerned with that small amount that was running off of their site into the town's road.
So what does TSS stand for?
TSS is total suspended solids. So the Mass Stormwater handbook has an 80% TSS removal requirement, which they are meeting for the rest of the site. It's just that very small portion at the end of the road that is not meeting that standard.
Okay, and so you agree with VHB's taking no exception?
Yeah, we were, again, we've discussed all of these comments pretty much with VHB over the past month or so, and we weren't concerned with that. what they were
Okay.
doing.
So the Concom is hopefully going to chime in on number 31. I have no idea what NAVD 1988 is as a planned datum. And you were supposed to be, they're deferring to us.
Yeah,
So-
and that's what the standard is that we use, is it's the vertical datum by which they do the survey.
And why is this even coming in as a
I think there
comment?
might be something written in one of the regulations, you'd have to go back in their comment, or to their original comment, but I think there's
The
something written
wetlands
that.
bylaw, potentially, or?
Yeah, that, the town of Winchester also has a datum, which at this point is, nobody uses, everybody uses the NAVD 88, because that's the datum that the
So
FEMA maps are based on.
so a planned datum is a fiducial elevation?
Right, so it's like how you determine zero based
Okay.
on, and where all your grading comes from. So there's like
Okay.
a 5.27 foot difference, I think, between
Okay.
NAVD 88 and town of Winchester data.
As long as we get all distances relatively correct, that's all I care about.
Yeah, I mean, we
Yeah.
as a standard, and I don't know where that was written, but it should be changed, because we as a standard no longer use the town of Winchester datum, we always use NAVD 88.
Okay.
Because that's what the FEMA maps are based on, so.
Okay.
Okay.
So the lot 1 of the subdivision, I'm assuming is still called lot 1, although it's
Yeah.
not titled on this. We are worried about, on the other side of Highland, those houses, and we're worried about down. What about that, the corner of that house?
So The grades are such that the water that flows to that property won't impact the house, and
If
it's,
the grades are done right.
right, I mean,
According to
if they're
plan, yeah.
done according to what's shown on the plan, yeah. And the wall, the other concern was the impact of the wall, and I think the way it's graded is that, we all feel comfortable that.
So,
So once that's sold and someone lives there, how do you make sure that it stays graded the way that you need it to?
Well, there is, a drainage easement through that property, through that portion, I think it covers that section, so.
And they would know
Okay.
that when they bought the property?
Well, they will know that there's a drainage easement, but there could be some language added either to the plan or to the drainage easement that says that they can't modify the grades in that area. That's a good point.
Yeah, I
Is-
think
is
that would, I
this-
think that would be a very good idea,
Yeah.
because, you know, I don't expect a homeowner necessarily to be able to come in and digest that. I mean, I happen to be married to an engineer, so I know he would get it.
Sure.
But I can think that a lot of other people who are non-professionals.
But I didn't know if it was even written anywhere when you buy the
Yeah.
property.
No, that's a good point, that
Yeah.
it's, you're right, it should be.
is
included
this,
in
does this
something.
go into the homeowners
It could be,
association?
certainly, yeah.
Just no regrading of any areas that are associated with any drainage easement, but.
Well, we'd have to look at the, I think, is that the drainage easement that's shown on there, that?
You just have to
dash
make
line?
sure that the
We can come up with some
description is
language
clear.
about no regrading of that front area.
So when you say that there's no impact to the house, how close to the house does the water actually get? And if we're looking at a 50 or a 100-year flood,
100-year.
are we going to get water in their basement?
Underwater.
I defer to the applicant, and I haven't done that level of analysis. I defer to the applicant. I mean, the house doesn't have to be built the way it's shown here, right? You guys aren't approving the location of the houses as
That's
part
true.
of this.
Right, but we are approving the concept of having houses that aren't affected by 50-year.
Sure, yeah,
So,
yeah.
okay, so that's an analysis you haven't done. Why don't we finish up with the town engineer first, because we've got our expertise in front of us. You know, again, trying to parse this thing, I believe I understood you to say that you are okay with the current plan? And VHB is as well?
VHB reviewed it. I did not review the most final plan this afternoon because I was in a meeting, but VHB reviewed it, and we've discussed at length over the past few days, so I think we were all on the same page as to where we wanted
Have
to
you
go.
discussed this, but Michael, I'm concerned that the final plan that arrived this afternoon, I want to make sure there are no substantive changes which haven't been reviewed. So what you've discussed over the last several days, is that encompassed by the final plan which we have before us?
So, again, I was in meetings all afternoon. I did not review the
Right.
final plan that came in at 4 PM. VHB reviewed it and issued this letter at 5:30 tonight.
Right, so you haven't seen the final plan, so you can't comment on anything other than,
The final
VHB?
plan was,
What's-
yeah,
Yeah,
I have
okay.
not reviewed it myself. I'm comfortable that VHB has reviewed it and it's in line with what we were asking to be
Okay.
done. And we, so,
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, I'm just trying to get my
sure.
ducks in a row.
No,
I shouldn't
they
say
are-
ducks when we talk
No,
about
I mean,
flooding.
we're all looking
but-
at brand new stuff and
Right.
asking for
Yeah.
opinions on things that
Right.
we haven't even really had time to
Yeah.
Yeah,
sit and look at, which is, I don't think the right way to make a decision in
agree.
any way, but I do think it's good to get an update on where we stand on everything from that, where we stand on the items you pointed out from design review, and go through that process, if that is acceptable to the planning board at this point, because
Yep.
I mean,
I'm sorry, I didn't catch. I
to
caught
just go through on an update on where everything is.
Yeah,
and-
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
Go to the hearing and postpone it to the next, we have time to continue it.
Yeah, I mean, I think what makes sense is, for the applicant to explain everything that's changed in these plans as opposed to the ones that we saw last month. I think that's a good exercise to go through. The HOA, I mean.
I would like to see it.
Legal
actually.
counsel is essentially saying, we would love to review it, we need time to review it.
Review it.
Yeah,
I wanna
and we
review it
should-
too.
Yeah, and we should.
I want to see it as well, to make sure that, for instance, we get the language that Heather discussed about
Right.
Great.
Well, there's a-
maintaining
yeah,
grading in that.
Exactly. The devil
go
is
in
in the
somewhere.
details, and that's where a lot of it is.
And I note that there was one of the things I caught looking at the subdivisions about, you know, who was going to deal with the the storm management and to make sure there was money in the kitty to pay for it, and I want to make sure that's in the HOA as well.
Yeah, that should be a condition.
Yeah, so, shall we just move on to the HOA, which is, I think, next on your list of important things?
Yeah, I think it's up to the board on when you would want, like I said, the applicant to come and explain the changes that have been, I mean, to explain the changes, because with this plan set, it's not every page has been changed, but I think it'd be a good exercise to go through all the things that were changed.
No, but even the things that are changed aren't bubbled. Usually when you resubmit a new, you bubble everything that's been changed. So
So you can easily
you can have them
identify.
go through it, but at the same time, we have the ginormous set, and we have it up there, and I don't think it's, for me to go through it, the way that I would like to go through it, it's not fair to the planning board to sit and wait for me to go sit and flip through all these big pages. at the
Agreed.
table.
What I'm saying is, I'm talking about 3 to 5 minutes
Yeah.
of,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
him
No, I think that's a
of
good
explaining
thing.
what the work that has been
Yeah.
done outside of the
I
drainage,
just want
which is-
expectations of where I'm
Yeah,
seeing, just to be very
I
clear.
think if we move through the 3 items you discussed, and then we bring the applicant forward to give a impromptu presentation on what's changed.
Well, it'll move us forward.
So I think, if there are no more questions on the drainage until we've had a chance to review these more, I think we can ask Beth to step away.
you,
Well,
Beth.
I
Thank you,
hate
Beth.
to- well, sorry, I'd like to wrap this up, but maybe I've been missing in action here, but I'm focusing on the properties across Highland Avenue and the potential impact on them. I'm not sure what's going on with you're talking about a buffer, that sounds good, maybe it's all fine, but I would love to just see a larger plan that shows me where the houses are across the street.
Yes.
And what's I mean, I don't know if I would do very well with the topo anyway, but at least have somebody interpret if it spills over the little buffer that's going to be on the edge of the grass, we get the 100-year storm,
What does that mean?
what's happening and where are the houses
What's been
located?
proposed prevents that from happening, even in the 100-year
100-year.
storm.
And who maintains that bump?
It'll just be a grassed, small
Swale.
Berm.
bump,
Yeah, but-
berm. I mean,
and-
not even, berm is
And,
really,
on whose property is this?
Town-
in the
it would be-
town.
It would be on the grass
Right
strip,
of way across the
within
street.
the within the right of way, so
Right.
not to
so
the
the
surface. but
swale,
within-
so
Okay.
on the subdivision side, there's a small swale being proposed in the grass strip, and on the opposite side of Highland,
But
there's a
these,
small.
I know it's our right of way, but have the owners been notified of this?
No, I mean, it's the town property.
Because
No, it is.
they're the ones who are really
No, I hear you. I
realistically
get it,
going to
but-
be maintaining it.
Right.
The town doesn't go around and mow
It's a
them.
grass swale, I mean, it's a grass berm, so once it's,
Right, but suddenly the town,
Regraded
the
and-
planning board said it's, I just am thinking, whoa, wait a minute, folks. They do perceive it, as DM said, as I know, I legally, no issues, but really, just suddenly have this as part of our agreement, that they're gonna get these little bumps in front. And, by the way, don't go out there and start, whatever, planting your
Bubbling it out.
daylilies, and suddenly it's gone down 4 more inches. Maybe the daylilies would help, I don't know, but, it just strikes me as something where it's kind of, that firm is going to be doing a really important job.
And they don't know it.
Right.
And how tall is this? I have no idea. How
Yeah,
big is
I-
this swale?
I think it was.
No criticism, by the way, it's just like, I
Craig, to
feel
be
like I'm
honest, what the
representing a
final
community.
plan
Okay,
shows
well,
in terms of
when
height.
Craig comes forward, we'll ask him that question. Okay, so enough at the moment for stormwater management. Let's move on to the protective covenant.
But
So-
why are we talking about this if we haven't seen it? and
Right,
our-
so what I was gonna say was,
Wait.
what I was gonna
I
say was
just
that.
want to get an update on what the story is.
Sure, so I don't have in the email, Art basically just said, I have some issues with some of the provisions of the HOA. I will give you a more fully, full-blown review, soon. So to be honest, I don't even know what his issues are with the
Right, right.
HOA.
That's okay, we don't expect you to. no,
Okay,
you
the
have
key,
to.
the key thing here is the last part and the last bit from Art, which says, I'll leave it to the board whether to grant subdivision approval conditioned on execution of a satisfactory HOA document. So if the board is okay trusting Art without seeing it, then he can go forward, else,
Well, that's not it.
Yeah,
If it's-
no,
That's not the point. I mean, I think the real point is that we have the responsibility for basically approving it, so that's what we're supposed to be doing, yes?
Yeah.
Yes,
no,
yes.
So, I mean,
So, and I think that if we don't have a clear idea of what's cooking,
Right,
I think that's a real
I
problem.
do too.
Oh, yeah.
Mark doesn't even know where we stand on anything.
Yeah, and he doesn't
He
know,
isn't.
I'm merely saying that, we do have the option of trusting Art, which we of
yeah,
course do.
it's not a trusting,
it.
it's not a trusting thing. I mean, basically what he's saying is that legally, we could have a decision tonight with one of the many conditions being approval conditioned upon the execution of a satisfactory HOA document.
Right.
Or what so that's legally possible. What
Right.
he's also saying by saying this, what he's also saying is that if we wait if he can review it, and then we can see exactly what it is
Yeah,
and
yeah.
vote the whole thing in
Right.
as part of, not as a condition, but just say, the condition would be, here's the HOA.
Done is done,
Right.
No, it's not.
We have them at our next meeting.
Our next meeting
Can we
has to
have-
be
Well,
scheduled.
if we do,
On
yeah.
the 7th, well, so our next
Right.
meeting is on Monday, the 17th.
Right.
I don't know if he's available.
And I don't know that we actually have time on the agenda for Art.
Right.
No, I mean
Well, no,
having
he's-
present
For
during
this.
Just
this.
talking about this, I
I'm
mean,
talking about
But
this too.
speaking of trust, I guess my feeling is I would like him to be doing it before we approve it.
Yeah.
I do trust him actually a lot. If he's comfortable with it, then I'll feel that I'm.
yeah, that was not the
I would
issue.
like the work.
Yeah, I used the wrong word. I will
So,
take the
yeah,
word
it's okay.
back.
If we were to move this to our, and I'm, by the way, hoping to get, we got options for January, but we don't have a commitment finally. I guess the 8th is a firm date, and after that, it's options, but.
well, the 8th is, so the 8th is the last day that we can render a decision,
January 8th.
January 8th.
Okay.
Well, except that if we were to say, well, we deny if we don't have everything in line, so it's not that.
No, I'm just saying a decision,
Right,
so
the
our
days, right,
we have a
we'll
90,
an extension,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
all. Right,
Well, no, the only way we could get an extension is if the applicant
I
would
understand.
agree to that.
exactly, and that is very common, and I've certainly lived through many.
But yeah, it happens to be, so January 8th is the 90-day mark from the time of application, which
okay.
means we have to have not a decision filed, a decision rendered.
Right.
So we need to have a vote on, the 8th is the drop dead date.
You keep saying that, unless the applicant wishes to extend.
Correct.
Right, and we have the opportunity to say, this is not finished, it's done. So-
We do. Why don't we're gonna get to that discussion, I think, in a bit. So why don't we move forward? And, I mean, I'm hoping we will get to that discussion in the next 15 minutes.
Okay.
So, so we don't have anything really to say on the
On the
HOA
HOA.
because no one's
We're
seen it.
deferring to Art at the moment.
I
At-
think
at
there's
the moment-
consensus that we want to see it.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, well,
the mood of the board is that we want to see it
Approved by our,
Before-
recommended by our.
before, in any ways, just to make sure that the things that we think are important are in there.
Right.
So there's that on the HOA, and then the last thing,
Oh, yeah, last thing on the HOA was that typically, so Beth and I looked at previous subdivisions, and usually the HOA is baked already. It's not usually a condition
Right.
based upon the subject
Exactly
of a written HOA. It's, here's the the condition is, look at exhibit
Looks like
A,
Exhibit A, there's
here's the
HOA.
homeowners association agreement, sorry.
Correct, thank you.
So that would be what's typical of what the board has done in the past.
Yeah,
I would, okay, yes.
yes.
So there's that. And then the last thing that I believe that you said should look at would be the extension of the 53G.
Yeah, so Beth, I'm not sure exactly how much money, it was somewhere in the 5 to 6 range in terms of how much money.
I thought he would give you a number.
Yeah, I can look at that real quick.
Is this for services
Already
already
done,
rendered?
already done,
Okay.
yes.
So we
Uh,
don't anticipate any further work from VHB?
I think at this point, we're finally okay.
Yeah, unless the board has concern with what has been,
Okay, but
Except for
as,
as discussed, yeah.
I
okay,
think what the letter that came out today would be their final review.
okay.
So I can obviously get, a very specific number. There could be a vote I don't think the vote needs to specifically say exactly how much money. I think
Yeah.
we need to cover it would be to cover the cost of services already rendered.
Yeah,
Why would they have continued working if they'd exceeded their contract amount?
This is a good question.
We'll have to do-
because they like
So-
doing business with the town.
Well, yeah, one, the work needed to be done. They they probably should have been more forthcoming with their schedule in terms of their, where they were in terms of the money. But the scope was very clear in terms of the original scope, in terms of how much review they were supposed to be doing. And in the past 2 weeks, there's been significant work.
If there's scope creep, usually you flag that and you ask for more money before you.
You are correct. You are right. I can't defend it.
Well, you can't explain it.
I
Is it-
yeah, I mean, I
don't know
cannot
that it's a
explain
negative.
why they didn't say, we have reached it, we're not doing any more work until we are authorized to have more money.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't explain why they didn't do that. Anyway.
We shouldn't be in this position with our 53G money, but that's.
Well, it's not I mean,
well,
it's not,
it's something that in the future, I think we would be more comfortable if it didn't happen.
oh, completely.
But I'm not saying VHB didn't do,
The work needed to get done. It was
Work-
that they didn't alert us fast enough. The thing is, at that time, it's not like we didn't have it's not like the board could have even voted the money at the time
we
based
could,
upon our meeting schedule. Meaning a lot of work happened in a very condensed amount of time.
right, but the board, yeah, so in the future, let's try to make sure the board is notified so that the contractor doesn't work beyond their budget.
Yep.
So that
Yeah,
we
if
can,
there's scope creep, they would say, we need to stop work, and then we
And
would
then
wait
we-
for another planning board meeting, and then we would get approval.
I agree 100%.
yeah,
But
I
I mean,
mean,
you're saying it was so rushed,
yeah,
that's
Which-
like
which
forcing
al-
us
which
to
always-
talk about it
right.
tonight, you know what I mean? Like, they didn't have to do that work this week
No.
if we hadn't voted to give
It's-
them more
which
money.
always makes me
mean-
nervous, frankly, you know.
I'm, personally, I'm glad they did the work. It shows that they have, they want to do the job. But in terms of
No.
the controls issue, I am concerned.
Beth and I were concerned as well.
Yeah, so,
There you go.
I think we should take a vote on whatever the wording should be in terms of authorizing I don't know what the wording should be. Can you come up with the right wording? Dan?
It would be to use 53G in order to cover the cost, to make the applicant pay to cover the costs of the work that was performed as part of the subdivision review. I mean, it's kind of this weird situation where, because there was a lot of this back and forth, it caused more money to be spent.
Yeah,
Basically what happened is, engineering and VHB had a number of ideas and recommendations. The applicant took those in and came up with other options that could satisfy the same requirements. And then VHB had to review those multiple options to see whether or not they actually did do what the applicant said.
What they were purporting to do.
So it was this, I wouldn't say cat and mouse, it was more of just, in order to get the work done, there needed, you either agree to what VHB says or you don't, and that's what happened. VHB easily could have just said, like Heather said, VHB is like, we're not doing this anymore,
No.
and they could have just stopped it immediately. They, for whatever reason, didn't want to be aggressive in that way, and didn't do that. I think it was a mistake. Beth and I agree that it should have been a little more forthright. Or-
He's actually a real person, so I hope you have that conversation.
Yeah, no, I talked with him specifically
Mhm.
and said that this was not really what we had anticipated. Meaning that, sure, if more work needs to happen, that's fine, but it's more of like, here's the bill, and we're like,
It doesn't work this way.
yeah,
Usually like, okay, we've hit our number of hours.
like I said, you're
Okay.
you're 100%
Or
right.
it looks like
Okay.
we're gonna blow through our hours.
so
you know.
I think we've all indicated our disapproval of what's happened, so, now we have to vote to approve G funds to cover the, you had really good
Review,
language.
just say review.
Approve 50G funds to cover the cost of services rendered.
The service which have already been, these are not new services.
Right, to cover the costs of,
Review.
the cost of, review that,
Additional review time?
that has already happened.
Yeah, that's the key. I want to make sure it says
Already occurred.
additional review that has already happened, over and above, well,
Over and
is there,
above the initial contract?
It's just a-
yeah, is over and above not redundant?
No,
Yeah,
maybe a little bit.
the
You would say
initial,
the cost of additional reviews that have already happened outside of the original scope.
Yep.
okay,
Perfect.
you've got
That's
that?
fine.
Yep.
Okay, so,
So move.
do I have a second?
Speak,
Second.
Betsy.
Betsy seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we've got 5-0 on that.
Yep.
Okay, so that was, I think, all we have to talk about in terms of the
Right, so
list.
so the HOA, we're basically waiting for art,
Yeah,
and I still would like the applicant to explain what has happened
Yes.
since the last meeting.
yeah.
And so who, but before we get to that, who actually does review, so you're not looking to me or Heather, anybody, to actually see about how responses, I mean, I would like the staff, frankly, to say, I've looked at the plan, I know it came in at 5:30, so we're not quite there where we
Right.
should be, but have you had a chance to go over the, you know, the trees, the light fixtures? Somewhere in here is it written, I got a cut sheet, but, about the dry laid stone wall 4 feet in height. I mean, I've got all this miscellaneous stuff, but who's actually pulling it all together?
So, I had asked for this very reason, I had asked for us to have just one document, you know, one PDF with everything in it, because, to be frank, there's been a lot of different versions of a lot of different plans, and it's messy in terms of how many different
Well, that's
ones, yeah.
I don't
So
wanna
that's why I was
be-
like,
I don't
we
wanna
just,
be responsible.
right, well, it was more, we need one PDF to look at,
Mhm.
and do a full review. We got that today.
Mhm.
All right, so
Okay.
who is part of this review team, I think is what Maureen's
Right.
getting at.
Engineering and planning.
Okay,
And so you have been accumulating all the design review and,
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Oh, great,
Okay.
good.
so,
Oh, it hasn't been reviewed for the.
right,
that's
yeah,
fine.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah, because before
just-
we put our imprimatur on it, I'd want to
Yeah,
know that it was
I
complete.
just wanted to reiterate that, so
Yeah.
it has not been reviewed.
Mhm.
Well, so, I mean, no, this entire set has not been reviewed to a degree where I'm looking at every single page. I mean, like I said, we just,
Right.
No, I know.
Yeah.
nearly all the work that has been done, though, has been related to the drainage. And there has not been much work done, like most of these plans, you've seen them before.
yes,
However, I have not double-checked that there haven't been any
But
changes
she's
in.
asking about a list of design things that
Right,
was
the
trying to like
lighting, the
remember.
trees, the
Yeah,
stone
So-
wall. and-
So
That's
we-
just the minutes of the, yeah, so that's, so,
Do you
stone,
have it? Are you creating some, I mean, I would love a matrix that.
Yeah, they just
some
had, they just had a
spreadsheet.
list of the items and
Check,
Like
check,
yes
check.
or no.
Yeah.
I guess
well, I
we're,
think, so what you mean whether everything that has been incorporated from all of our meetings, design review and historical
Yeah.
Yes, the
commission?
list of
Yeah, so
items.
that,
all the
yes, that
reviews.
is, that has not happened, so to be
Okay.
very clear, no.
But you
Okay.
could make a checklist, so
Yeah,
that we know,
so-
okay.
Yeah, I
by-
mean,
Make
it's,
sure.
so everyone here has the historical commission and the design review comments.
And
They're-
I'm like you, it's like.
I have like 500
Hello,
pages.
this is
I know.
my day job.
so I think what we're looking for is a final document which indicates all of the different concerns that have been expressed and indicates whether or not these plans, the complete package addresses those. And so sort of an organized checklist going through and saying, okay, here's what the DRC said, and here's where we can check off on the application that it's been dealt with.
Right,
Because
something, you know.
we're seeing, a zillion different details, and we don't know how it matches onto the plan. So we're just looking for a final package like that.
And has the Board of Health chimed in at all?
Yes, they have. They had a minor comment.
So you add that into your list of.
Yeah, no,
of
that's already in my potential list of conditions.
Yeah,
Okay.
Right.
It had to do with getting a fill permit for when they, I mean,
Right.
no issues is the
Right.
short answer.
So we need to, so we know that Concom has been asked to do stuff, at least from VHB. Obviously, the DRC has given us comments, and you've gotten comments from, well, you're gonna get more comments from us, but you already have comments from us. Okay, so why don't, so we have an assurance that such a checklist is will be created.
And I want
Perfect.
to add to that, I don't know how, I know it's not legally required, but I want somebody to let these people know across Highland that there's a condition now that we're contemplating that will be in the town's property. It has to be really clear, it is the town's property, but they should be aware that it's as a result of the
Yeah,
project on Highland, 20, at, where,
Yeah, that's a
20
proposed
Highland?
project.
I would say just, yeah, it would coordinate with the western side of Highland Ave.
Mhm.
Yep.
okay. So are we ready to have the applicant come forward and tell us what's changed? Everybody okay with that? Okay, so Mr. Miller, you want to come up?
Want to work to a time?
Yeah.
Our
Pardon?
timer?
Our timer, yeah. So why don't we,
According to my
why don't we do this? So I'd like to have at least 10 minutes to discuss, for the board to discuss. We started a bit late this evening, about 5 minutes late. So, Mr. Miller, you think you can get through this in about 7 minutes?
Sure.
Okay, we'll give you 7 minutes, and then hopefully that timer works today.
Let me go back to the, oh, it's this one.
Who's got the mouse?
He does.
Oh,
So in terms of what's changed since the last time.
Yeah.
It would be this page, these
page?
cloud, C1. So this is the erosion, the clearing and grubbing plan. So in response to the comments we got at one of our previous meetings, we've clouded, circled all the trees that we want to preserve outside of the clearing and grubbing area. Others cannot be preserved because there are homes planned for those areas. Or in this case, drainage structures here and here. So that was one comment that we were asked to add, which we did. So on this plan, we reference on this retaining wall detail, we reference a detail at the end of the drawing set, which I'll show you shortly, that incorporates, as Brian mentioned, the dry laid stone retaining wall, and you did as well, right? The dry laid stone wall retaining detail, so it's not an ancillary piece of paper, it's actually in the plan
Right.
set, so that's in the plan.
Not to exceed 4 feet.
Correct. That's what the drawing says here. So that's this piece. This is the drainage plan, but really,
Just zoom down, zoom a little smaller so I can see the page numbers on it. Just for my notes.
C2. So I'm
Figured,
just,
but I just wanted to double check as we go
Yeah.
through it.
no problem at all. So this one would be C3, which is, I'm sorry, that's C2 still. I hit the up button instead of the page button. So this is the drainage plan. Nothing has changed here. On the grading plan, as Beth mentioned, we've completely reworked this little area here to VHB's satisfaction. We've done a lot of work, and so have they, over the last several days. And between our comments and input and Beth's and VHB's, we've come up with what I think is the best solution to that problem of allowing that water to continue to get to where it used to go. And so this area here has changed. We've got a modification here in the grass strip that's on the town's property. That's changed. And also, as Beth mentioned, we've got a little dipsy-do grade that changes here. Instead of going a steady 1% from roughly here to the end, VHB recommended that we come up
Oh, yeah, good.
and then go back down again
Yeah.
to this low point where the catch basin is. So that reduces some of the TSS, or total suspended solids, that Beth mentioned, because now some of those will be collected instead of being shed off the site. And so that's what's changed here. Otherwise, this whole drawing
Well,
stays.
the one thing that we did, also do was extend the guardrail.
Yeah, I was gonna get to that on the next
Okay,
page.
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, so on the
Well-
grading plan, that's the only change on this sheet.
So on this one, trying to get an answer to my question, where would a 100-year flood put the water so that the house wouldn't get?
Roughly 10 feet away. So the corner of that house is right there, and the swale that we're creating goes right across here. You can kind of see how those contours all line up. And you see that curve in these series of contours, that means it's higher.
Right,
So that area is right here, and it intersects right here where these contours are being shown. That's a little swale that we're creating in the grass strip. And to answer your question earlier, why doesn't the house flood? It's because everything's on a hill. And so unless somebody were to come in and put a dam across Highland Avenue, the water will never encroach upon that house, because it's always moving, always moving. So it can never come up and threaten the house, because it's always going downhill.
How high is the house above the sidewalk?
3 to 4 feet. So just the principles of physics and gravity, the water's moving, it can't continue to rise because it's always outletting downhill.
that depends upon the rate of flow. If you have a high enough flow, it doesn't matter how fast it's moving, you will actually get a rise in waters.
That would take a monumental, I mean,
Well-
we're already dealing with the 100-year storm, it would be way outside that. And because, here's why, because you have, the channel now is the entire street. So you're not talking about just a narrow little channel, which could in fact rise and fall with a increase in flow. We've gone from this point, by the time the water leaves the corner of that property, enters the new culvert that we've created, and then outlets into Highland, you now have the
Okay,
entire width of Highland, the grass strip on the other side, the grass strip on this side, and so there's no possible way for that water to grow, because the channel is now 30 times bigger than it was when it left the project site.
okay, that makes
Just
sense.
an order of magnitude that just can't happen. There would, like I said, there'd have to be a blockage, so a tree would have to fall, pile up of cars, you know. So that's this page. We've modified the landscaping
Yeah, I
to
wanted
improve here.
So they were asking for 2 street trees on
Yeah.
Highland.
Those are right here.
Yep, what are they?
Oh, off the top of my head, I don't know.
And which one is this, C4?
C3,
Five.
C5, we're up to C5 already.
So are those trees where the swale is?
Yeah.
What's that? So, we'll have to look at other locations on
And
that.
also,
Yeah, why don't we put, originally, when we talked about, so this, there's a sequence here that caused that to happen,
right,
That's fine.
right? So
Yeah.
I'll move those trees out into the town strip, if that's okay.
yeah. I
Because
think we
that's
just want street
unoccupied.
trees.
Well, I'm thinking even if you put them on the upper side of,
Over here,
your driveway or your road.
over here.
Yeah,
Well,
on
The
on
in-
Highland Ave still, but on
the,
so they're not where we're gonna be regrading and. having-
over here maybe.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay, that's fine with me.
It's up to the board, but
that-
it would be
That's fine,
kind
with-
of out of the area where we're regrading and doing other work.
that's fine
They
with
should
me.
be trees that can, the design review, this is Julie's actual note rather than the summary from Eileen. It says, we asked for 2 street trees on Highland Avenue for canopy and to define the street edge after the existing trees are gone. So they're looking for street canopy. I want to point out that this is going to be a very wet setting.
No, it's only the 100-year storm, which is very unusual.
Wet anyway.
No, it doesn't stay wet because it's, again, it's sloped. It's not like a flat area where water can just collect. It can't collect. It actually runs all the time. Even when water's on it, it's gone. So the water doesn't sit there and collect and grow, it just flows. Even with a grassy strip that's full of leaves, it's still gonna flow because you've got a hill.
But when you're in March weather and the ground's frozen, it's.
Even more reason, because it can't go in, it
Super,
flows.
super. Okay.
So it always
So,
flows.
anyway, I do support their general interest in street canopy, so I don't know how you,
Yeah, I think the
I
only
won't
thing is
solve that here.
You don't want it planted in the swale.
Yeah, I'm-
Understood, of course.
I'm happy to move,
Get that for the water
I'm
retention.
happy to move those 2 right
I
here.
think we're responsible for your time.
Okay, yeah, so we'll give you a couple more minutes, why don't we?
What sheet is that?
C5.
They'll be smaller if you put them in the sidewalk.
You also, since you're gonna relocate them, can you also define what they are?
They're on the plan.
Well, that was my
Spec,
question.
you know, spec for the actual.
They're on the plan, right there. See the table?
Yeah, the box,
so
I know,
tiny.
the table's dinky.
That's not a helpful
It's not a-
comment, since none of us can read that.
Well, hang on a second, I'll blow it up so everyone can read it.
Okay.
This is how you do it on a plan set. There's the trees right there, there's the size, the caliper,
Mount Holly, where are
right?
they?
So let's see, that is a 4, that's quantity AR, that's an AR tree.
Probably.
Acer,
Yeah,
red
that's
maple. right?
Okay.
Red
Red maple.
Those have
3-inch
very,
caliper.
those actually have shallow roots. I do wonder if that's the right choice.
Well, why don't we,
I must say, I don't think that our staff has the ability to do that, but maybe I'm wrong, but.
Well,
are
why
you
don't-
a
why don't-
person?
I am not a landscaper.
Right, okay.
let's,
So you don't
let's,
need to
let's
be
make a
an
note of whether or not the species are appropriate.
I would ask maybe Brian or Beth, if you're figuring out location, that's fine, but do envision a street canopy tree. But we could try Elaine, and if not, Julie Riemann-Schneider would be the right person. But just-
I think that in the street tree committee, Betsy, you might know, that they have a list
Yeah.
of
I believe
trees
so.
that they recommend. for-
As much as I feel
believe
trees
so.
are important, why don't we move on to the rest of this plan so we can
But
get
I
to our
want
discussion?
an action item.
I'm gonna add to that, one is the AR, the other one is a PO, which is a cherry.
Mhm.
Oh, that's too small.
So
No,
they're not
not a
two,
canopy
they're not the same.
Absolutely not, yeah, no.
Okay,
That's fine.
No,
We'll
from
make
this-
them whatever the town's tree
Right.
list wants them to be.
Well, it's
Okay,
not,
I
you're
mean-
gonna need somebody who actually knows the site.
Right.
Not every tree.
I think this is just one of a number of issues that we will have to have dealt with.
We've got to bring it to an end at some point, though, right?
At some point, it will be brought to an end when we're happy with it.
Because
So let's move on.
There were
Let's-
months ahead of this to start talking about trees. I mean, we're kind of.
That's why I'm asking us to move on, so
Adding
that,
new comments at the very end
can we
is a little,
please move on to the next page
disingenuous
in
for
this
the whole
that we have
process.
just seen today?
to be honest. I mean, we're all working in good faith, and this is, you're just adding misery to the whole process.
I think that, why don't we concentrate on the plans in front of us and just leave it at that?
So this plan here, C6 and C7 are just a repeat of the drainage plan that you saw here, because what we're doing on this plan is showing the profile of the road. So this little area here has changed, right here, and that's it. I'm gonna get to Brian's comment, because I skipped over, I'm trying to see what plan it's on. Let's see if it's this one or not.
Yeah, I think it shows up on landscaping, and I think it shows up on grading.
Oh, the wall, the
The
rail.
guardrail.
Guardrail, so-
Because
Guardrail.
it was only going over some and not part of the end of the hammerhead.
So
but now
our,
it's-
previously, our plan had the guardrail ending right here and not continuing to the end of the hammerhead, because we needed that extra 2 feet for the overhang of the fire engine after the tire of the fire engine hit the curb. So we've now changed that. We've added the guardrail all the way to the end. We've expanded the hammerhead in this direction and in this direction, and we've added to the plan set the truck turn radiuses that justify and illustrate that it conforms with all fire truck apparatus, all Winchester apparatus.
With that, going to the HOA, since I know you're working on that, a lot of the hammerheads, they do require no parking at the hammerheads, because if there's parking there, the trucks can't get in and get out.
We
So
have,
you
we
can
have,
include that in your
Add that
HOA.
as a
have-
condition.
we have no parking on the, I think we have a sign for it, but I'll make sure.
And what
Which is a
page
safety
is this
issue.
again?
The safety issue.
This is probably C.
Okay, give you another couple more, since we're dragging
We're
this
making
up.
progress.
C4.
C4. Oh, we're not going in linear, okay.
Can I ask a question?
Going to be.
Is it already signs for no parking along the road? We talked about that.
We were talking about ones, we were gonna, I think it was one
I
side
thought it was
definitely,
both sides with the-
no parking at all.
I think I saw that.
Yeah, I think so, I'd have to look. We'll make sure that it is, since we're coming back at it.
And
So I missed, so the recommendation is that there's no parking at all on this street?
Yeah, so the fire department has like a recommendation they've made in terms of road widths and.
Yeah.
So-
I think for that road width, they recommended no parking on either
I think that's an excellent idea,
That-
because I will tell you, at
Fine.
night,
think
when
he
it
already
gets dark,
has it.
it's very hard to see
But
along
the signs,
there, 'cause it's
they
not
were
lit.
up there, they
The,
were there.
the signs are in.
Yeah.
So the one piece I've not heard about, and maybe this is late in the game, but when we're talking about the guardrail, I do want to direct this to Beth. I remember way back with Fitzgerald Ave or whatever, right? Hello, we've been around a while, haven't we? And the issues about where the snow goes when it's being plowed. So where, I mean, it's logically, it's where's the town going to dump the snow, especially if you got.
It's gonna get pushed up against that guardrail.
That's what I'm saying.
And that
Exactly.
means
And then it's
it'll-
going to break. And
What's
I-
gonna break?
The guardrail.
it will.
Guardrail's gonna
And
break?
they've broken our street sign, which is metal. I mean, they break them.
I'm actually also concerned about the, essentially pollutants from the road getting dumped onto the conservation land right next
So
there.
DRC, they had mentioned to have a lower portion of the guardrail to block salt and sand, which the applicant.
Conservation.
Which the
we've-
applicant did.
We've added,
Oh, okay.
so to the standard DCR detail for wood guardrail, which we were using originally, we added I'll try to find the detail, but we added
Great.
an extra, let's try to find that.
It was a D9, wasn't it?
Yeah,
That was the new sheet
it's-
you provided.
Probably at the end. Okay, right here. So let's zoom in.
Would
Let's-
be guardrail.
So normally, this detail only has one rail, and the reason for that is because this is only 24 inches tall by code with DCR, a 24-inch tall guardrail with a 12-inch wide rail beam, right? So Conservation asked, for the specific reason that you referenced, can we add something lower to prevent salt spray and snow from plowing through that gap low down and impacting the wetlands? So this is what we've added. There's now only a 3-inch gap here and a 3-inch gap down there at the bottom.
Okay.
So if the salt gets
That
through,
addresses that.
That's
Does
better.
somebody have, and I'll turn, I'm sorry, Craig is on your,
Mhm.
but with the clocks, we got rid of that.
Yeah,
But,
forget the
how-
clock.
Do we know where
No,
the
we
snow
got
is
it still.
going? When it's plowed?
Well, so if this is a private way, the town, unless they make other, the homeowners association makes other arrangements, the town will plow this.
Exactly,
And so
yeah.
my guess is that they will come in and plow and push it,
To the right.
to the right, up against that guardrail.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
Okay,
another
sorry.
I mean, I don't see another option. I mean, so the idea of putting the.
I'm not looking at evidence.
No, I know. Well, just the idea of putting the rest of that guardrail on the bottom was based upon the last conversation that we all had here of specifically cars backing up at night in the winter.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
So
yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
felt it was an unsafe situation. I thought we had all said that we wanted to extend it all the way.
I'm not
Yes.
objecting, I'm just,
We-
I
So
don't know.
what typically happens on all, I'm sorry, Maureen, what typically happens on all roads in New England and in Winchester when it snows, and it snows a lot for several weeks or
Right,
months at a
right,
time, and
I've
it just keeps adding up, is that the travel lane goes from 18 feet
Correct.
down to 12, down to 10,
Right.
which is still passable by all vehicles,
Right.
including
No, I'm not
emergency
worried about
vehicles.
that.
So what happens is that snow storage ends up happening on the road itself, and in the winter, for a month and a half, you go from having an 18 wide open road to a 12-foot wide,
We
and
can debate
it works, and it's 6 feet in it, it's plenty of room.
Well, what would happen is a fire truck would simply, like the fire department said, they would just go in.
Right.
And they would go out.
Back out, and
Okay. I mean,
Captain.
that's the worst case
Captain
scenario, so-
Tustin has said several times, as I've talked to him about the turning radiuses, that he's fine backing out of this.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, because
Guaranteed. Who wants to bet?
Well, if it gets damaged, then it has to get fixed. And
That's right.
presumably that's,
Right.
it's not the town that's gonna
Right, but I
fix
think
it.
that's an important point to make, and that's
Yeah.
what I talked to Art about this afternoon in the HOA document, is that if this is to remain a private way, it is not the town of Winchester who will go out there and fix the
Mhm.
guardrail.
Right.
It's the responsibility of that HOA.
That's right.
Right.
To make those repairs to the guardrail, make
That's some
repairs to
fun.
curving, make repairs to
please.
the road, all of that is not town of Winchester.
Well,
But the
and,
town's plowing, oh, God.
It doesn't matter. I mean, the HOA must include language about guardrail repairs
right.
unless we take over the
And-
road.
and
So let's
just-
just leave it at that.
Just to be fair, these guardrails are tested, and this reason the spec exists is because they've been tested for the force of impact
Right.
from snow, from plows, from cars. So they don't just break like a brittle piece of wood,
No.
they actually hold up quite well. And if we had to, we'd put steel in there to make sure that it didn't, but I like wood better because I think it fits in better with the character of the
Yeah.
environment. So
We'll just,
I think
the
we're-
HOA will have language, one way or the other, to deal with that.
We're good there.
I have seen, and with hammerheads, with this, where they actually designate an area where the snow goes.
Exactly, I've seen it on
So,
our,
but
in this
I don't know
town.
how that helps, but
Right,
if
I'm
you
The
put it right
homeowners were
there.
so constrained by the, property boundaries that were set up as part of the land transfer, that
Yeah.
there's, ideally, you would give that space at the end of the hammerhead, right? You
Exactly.
have a space before the guardrail, like you'd end the curbing, and there would be a space, and there'd be the guardrail.
In between the houses, you can put it too, if you needed to.
Yeah,
Right, but like I said a few minutes ago, so we've got 18 feet of road, there's a full 6 feet before it even threatens the travel lane. So
Yeah.
that's a huge amount of snow. And you could pile snow at each corner of the hammerhead, and the fire department can still get in and get out because they've said they have no problem
They'll
doing
get
that.
in and out, I'm not worried about that.
Okay, so then the snow storage issue is a problem, but it's solvable within the design that we've provided. So it works.
I'll be around.
Okay. Why
It
don't we
works.
move on to the next one?
All right, so, and then those details that I mentioned earlier about the truck turning radiuses are all in the new sheets that we've added here. So this backs up all of the turning radiuses for the slightly modified hammerhead.
And which sheet is this again, please?
This is D11,
D11, okay.
and
And I'm assuming that the fire chief is happy with, is okay with these? He hasn't seen these.
they all work, and we'd have to rely on, I think, VHB to say yes to the
Okay.
auto turn. We can give VHB the auto turn, they can say yes, and then certify that these, what we've printed on the plan is in fact,
the truck analysis was not part of VHB's scope, but we
Oh,
did meet
okay.
Captain Tustin.
He was satisfied.
Previously.
Captain Tustin was satisfied.
okay,
Okay,
so there we
Last
go.
time we met.
I'm just making sure it's been
We
checked.
made it bigger since then, so.
Okay,
Right.
cool.
Yeah,
Let's-
that's the
let's-
important.
And then the last item is just adding this as a, second to last item is adding this as the example for the dry laid stone retaining wall that would go down at the bottom on lot 1.
Mhm.
And so that's not a floating piece of paper anywhere. Here's the lighting plan,
Yeah,
here's the
like-
lighting fixture,
Nice.
10-foot tall, tasteful, right? And here's the lumens. We've got a 0 in here, but it's really a short distance. I feel like if we added a 4th pole, it would be overkill. You had asked us, I wanted 2, you asked for 3,
Yeah.
so here's the 3.
Okay.
And that wraps
Well,
up.
you know,
So,
it has to be there for the late night dog walkers. you know.
On the light fixture, I believe the subdivision regulations call it the use of the town of Winchester standard light fixture, so that, I guess the question is, I think on private ways, the town still changes the bulbs on streetlights, just from a public safety standpoint, so this is not standard town of Winchester fixture, and the town of Winchester can't be responsible for going in and changing bulbs, making repairs.
Wasn't this the acorn though that Fitzgerald, that, I think that was,
Is it the
that,
same?
I-
That's what the
that,
question.
yeah, I know,
I
I know
don't-
that
I
was the,
don't- yeah.
that was the, example
Why don't we
that, but,
leave that as a
Oh,
question?
what-
Beth makes a good point, but why don't you guys figure it out?
Yeah, just make a
Yeah,
note,
yeah.
make
That is
a
a
note
question.
that,
These are LEDs, so it'll be 20 years before anyone's changing
It's
a bulb.
okay.
No, but that, well, I thought that in my house.
That's-
when I was
that's-
changing light bulbs.
Does the town have a regulation about shining down versus
Yeah,
going up
Well,
into
I
the
see
sky?
DRC
Yeah.
was talking about a light,
It
making
has-
Well,
sure there's a
like I
black
said,
top
we
cover.
have a town of Winchester's standard light fixture, and then the town went through and retrofit all of our light fixtures with, the LED
Mhm.
fixture that we now have, so that was maybe done 3 or 4 years ago.
so can we just give that spec to Craig so he has it?
As long as it's attractive, I'm happy to change it. I like the look of this.
well, I think the
whatever-
one at
whatever you
Fitzgerald
want.
that we recently did was an acorn style, just like this, I believe,
Yeah,
and
I
I
think
believe
so.
that,
Work it out.
yeah.
yeah, just
So
put a
we'll-
note in
we'll work
there.
that
I
out.
don't know if the town has light pollution standards,
That's
which,
what I meant.
I
And
don't
thi-
think-
this,
We
this,
do, I think.
this,
Not for streetlights.
not for streetlights.
That's
It's
weird.
in the zoning bylaw for,
but this has a,
For other properties.
this
But
has
there's
a,
nothing saying so much has to go down to the ground versus up.
Yeah.
well, this has a refractor in the top, so it's all black on the top.
Yeah,
that's what
but
like that's-
I can assure you astronomers hate the LED lights.
Well, to me, they've put
Being
no
an
lights.
astronomer,
I
I
can
hate those
imagine.
LED
Up to me, I
lights.
put no lights, but, this
okay,
is,
guys.
Anyway,
That's it.
okay,
I have
so,
that.
excellent. So you've got that note. Craig, is that pretty much it for the deltas?
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I think at this point, the board will have a discussion amongst themselves. So if I could ask you, Craig, to go back into
Yep,
the
I'm just
audience.
packing up my belongings.
Yep. And so at this point, we are, why don't we give ourselves, what I'd like to do is have people, let's go around the table. Each person gets a couple minutes and talk about how you feel about this, whether we want to continue this to another meeting or whether you feel like you have enough information to make a decision tonight. Because that's the decision in front of us, so.
Well, I am liking it better as we are going along. But I think that we want to ensure that we have those few questions and items that we had earlier, and I think we're gonna want, before we vote it, I think we're gonna want to just ensure, it's been purported to us that it's going to be on there, and I have no reason to doubt that. But if we're voting on something like this, I would like to know that plan is complete.
Which plan was this? Just the
Talking
whole
about
thing?
the checklist we asked Brent to
Checklist?
do.
Okay, yeah,
Right. Thank you.
thank you.
I agree about that, but also I thought we were on hold because of the homeowners part.
From legal.
I'm asking for each person to give their opinion, so if
Oh,
you think
yeah.
it's important, then you should say it, because I may
No, I
not.
don't have other comments, I just
Okay,
thought we weren't really voting because we wanted Art's feedback and we wanted to look at the HOA doc.
well, it's at this point where each person states whether they are interested in waiting or not, because we haven't really had a group discussion about this, but we could avoid that whole thing if we all agree, so.
I would like to see a checklist because I have all these different plans and different notes from people's meetings, and it would be nice to see it in one cheat
Be
sheet.
able to sort of bring it all together.
Just like, yes, all these things were addressed,
Yeah.
okay, good, we can move on.
Okay,
Agree with everything Betsy and Heather said.
and, okay,
I would continue to hopefully wrap up with, but I would say this, it's going to take back and forth with the HOA and Craig. Just as, maybe it's directed to Craig, we can vote it if it's approved, but if it's not been approved, we're going to be extending
back
this,
here again.
requesting an extension.
Legal said they just need a couple days, and then
well, we have to
Well,
make
the-
sure that
And
it
he has
has,
comments, and then Craig responds, and it's back and forth, which is fine,
But
but
it's
it's
still-
not on our time, it's on
right,
their
but it
time.
would still be Art. To be
Yes.
honest, if Art's saying that this is what he would like, I don't know why we wouldn't
because there may,
necessarily agree with that.
we would agree that Art's approval is necessary but not sufficient. In that there may be things that we want in there that Art does not know about.
Or doesn't care about.
Or doesn't care.
Yeah,
So
okay.
having Art's approval is necessary.
You gotta throw that thing out.
I am gonna turn this,
No,
No,
some
we
of us
like
like
that.
it.
okay, okay, so, I spoke out of turn, Heather. Are you done, Maureen? Okay, Heather?
Yeah, I wanna see the HOA, the one issue with the HOA, which you just addressed, is Art's gonna look at it for his approval, and then we're gonna come in and review it behind everyone. And, things like saying, even though there's no parking signs at the Hammerhead, I like to say that it's part of the no parking requirement on the HOA, so stuff like that, which Art isn't going to be thinking of. And I'm trying to figure out the best way to incorporate those without
Too much back and forth.
circling, because we can't, as a board, we're not allowed to, we can provide input directly to Art, I guess,
Yeah.
and that's how we'd have to go about it, is we'd review it and provide our feedback directly to Art before he sends it onward to the applicant, and only Art would be the one who sees our comments.
Maybe the best way is if you can get ahead of it and think of just at least topics that you would, I know you lived in a condo, you've got some, I'm hearing the voice of a woman with experience.
I don't understand condo
Yeah, yeah.
management, but
Yeah, no, same here.
Homeowners
So
management.
I think if you have ideas, though, you can ship them out ahead of the game rather than waiting to see what Art and Craig come up with. I mean, obviously, you may still react, but
Wait.
I think it would be less likely.
it's the most efficient way to do it.
Yeah, right.
He's gonna, so Art's gonna review the draft that was sent over, the one that's up here. I'll obviously talk with him, but if there are any things that you know that you want to have in the HOA, I would email them to me as soon as possible,
Right,
so that I can get them
right.
to Art, and see whether or not they're reasonable, I guess. I think that's so I think that's,
Did we get the file in our email?
We do not
The
have,
HOA, yeah, where's the HOA draft as it currently
'Cause I
sits?
don't think I saw it.
the HOA got sent, so the HOA got sent when I sent the link. I sent a link, it was too big to send, so I sent a link
So it's
that the applicant.
and
and it's-
today that we just
Yeah,
received.
it's
Dropbox
called,
link
and it
that
just
you
says
sent?
Abby, there's like 12 or several PDFs in there, and one of them just says Abby,
Okay.
and that's the
Big
agreement.
concept, though, and maybe if you would make notes, in addition to looking at the drainage, which is absolutely the most important thing, that since this is a private way, and I live on one, that this homeowners association should be expected to, it should be laid out that they will be funding the maintenance and replacement of that road.
And
Of
repairs.
course, I mean, that's
We say of
that's
course,
the
but we've
definition of a
never-
private
And
road.
I-
And
road
that was
predates
one of my
that.
comments, I don't think it's clear in the document right now, it's clear about the drainage maintenance, I don't
Right.
think it's clear that they are responsible for the capital maintenance of the roadway.
Exactly.
Right, not just, I think on there, it was just talking
Talks
about potholes.
Stuff like that,
Right.
but it needs to be clear that they.
They
you know,
rebuild.
They should be
We
saving for the next 20 years.
rebuild, but we don't have an
to rebuild
HOA,
that
so
road.
it's
Exactly,
volunteer.
so when it comes
Right.
up
But we're
again on
private.
full scale.
so let's make sure that,
the HOA funds.
HOA includes, road reconstruction,
Yep.
And
That's a big one.
repairs due to snow removal.
construction and
And I would
repairs.
say, you know,
And maintenance.
road, surface, curbing,
Guardrail.
Guardrail.
there's no sidewalks, right?
Surface,
So, but any of that kind of
curbing,
stuff is fine.
The lights the
Guardrail,
town will do.
Drainage.
They're-
Not on a private.
drainage.
Oh, maybe I can get
Um,
one.
Okay, so let's make sure those are in there. And, okay, so we're still going around looking for comments. Is that pretty much, are you done, Heather?
So I need to do a memo to you, Brian, of everything, once I
HOA.
have, because we just received that this evening before
Right.
we came here. So, once I go through and review the most recent one, send you my comments, and then, go onward to Art.
Correct.
Okay,
Right.
or should I just send them directly to Art?
Better to
CC.
funnel them, yeah, I mean, if, as long, yeah.
Okay.
Wait, sorry, what was the direction to go to you?
Art and CC me.
Okay, both
And I
of you.
can't see the rest, I cannot include the rest of the board on it.
That's correct. Okay, so,
That's where I stand. I think
Or
we
you
need to
said,
get the HOA
yes.
in place in a stronger position and then come
Right.
back. And I think also, I would like to see some of the issues that we talked about, just the plans updated instead of having had a condition placed on the subdivision, saying that it meets this plan in place. So let's get the light fixture addressed and a revised plan instead of putting conditions on it. It'd be easier since we have this time right now. There's that, there was, the street trees was the other one.
Yep.
have
And
that.
working through that, and, there's someone at the DPW who has that skill.
Yeah.
Who's on the street trees, who's responsible?
Jay Gill is head of the street.
Jim Shattuck.
Oh, Jim, sorry, I got that
Oh,
wrong.
you know why, cause they use a consultant for their trees.
Yes, Julie.
Well, let's,
Julie.
yeah,
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 Julie.
Looked at it recently.
let's, yeah, so we've got trees on
Can
there.
you just
Use the
close that out
I got
so
it.
it doesn't come back up again?
Yep.
Okay,
Okay, I have nothing new to say, so, I agree with everything that's been said.
So,
So I think what I'm guessing from the board is a motion to continue
But-
this.
right, yes, the only thing is that we have we've already continued 654 Main, we've left that open on the 17th at 9 o'clock to have a final, to allow the applicant to potentially withdraw. So that's happening at 9, I believe, if we were gonna continue this, it would have to be at a minimum of 9:15. So we have to continue to a time certain.
The question I have, is that enough time for all of these odds and ends to get tied together?
No,
And that's where, you know, I'm
And
out of
hard,
town
too.
for 4 days, and I will not have a chance to look over these prior to that.
To the 17th.
Yeah,
yeah, no.
I have a 110-page document for the master plan that I have to review. I have work, and I'm gonna be out of town for 4 days, so I
It's
cannot
like
possibly
urbanized.
review this by next Monday.
Right, right,
So I believe that means that
January 8th.
we're up to January 8th.
That's the lad that's dropped dead, so.
It's a
Yeah.
drop dead date.
That's, unless,
A
so,
decision needs to be rendered
yeah.
by then, yes.
so the
Don't we have
question,
another meeting this month?
no, we were,
Well, we're master plan meeting.
We have master
Master
plan on the
plan.
17th, and then it's Christmas, New Year's.
yeah, so we're pretty much done.
Christmas.
So, I think that December 8th being the drop dead date leaves,
January.
thank you, January 8th. I don't think I don't like that in the terms of timing. I wish we had a little more buffers, because I'd like us to be able to have the opportunity to maybe meet twice if needed.
Mhm.
So I personally would like to ask the applicant for an extension. I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
I understand how you feel.
Well, we don't, I think Craig's hearing it, and I think that, we can go to the 8th, and I think he's
Yeah, I
going
don't
to be
think you.
motivated, as
do
they
it now.
say, and so's, I think Art is very responsive. I do realize
Yes.
that over Christmas, but there's enough time for a homeowners
No, I mean,
association.
Art basically said that he could have something by
Yeah.
Thursday.
Yeah,
That's,
I think
Art's
the
not the
8th
holdup
is
here.
doable, and if there's a huge hiccup, which I think it's possible we will be fine. So I guess I'd like to look on the bright side and say we can certainly ask for the extension if things go as,
I know.
But you don't have to ask for that.
we don't have
at
to
the
do it
moment.
now, right?
No, we
I-
don't, and I have to
I
say,
just want, yep, okay.
and I
Just
feel,
raising the flag.
personally, I feel much more encouraged after tonight's
Yeah,
meeting, to be honest.
I think it's doable.
Okay,
It's pretty, I think we were pretty clear on what we're looking for and where our holdups are,
okay.
Okay,
right?
And
so,
if you have that checklist and then he sees where the holes are, that will help too, to make
Yes.
sure we're on the
When
same.
you create that checklist, will
Yeah,
you
yeah.
please make sure Craig has a copy?
Of course, no.
The
That's
applicant.
what I mean.
So can we
7:30?
put a deadline on the checklist? Can we say checklist, so that we
Whatever
can?
you want.
What are you able to do?
Yeah,
What
let's
is the
not say
better-
whatever we want, yeah, so
What's a reasonable time for you
This
to
week?
turn it around? So it'll be by the end of the week?
I think I could I think at the latest Monday, but I think I wanna shoot for this week, yes.
Okay,
Okay.
oh, yeah.
Okay,
Hey, you have
Given
to
that-
take care of the kitties.
No, he has some meetings he has to
we
go
have
to.
Santa
lots of
is
meetings
coming.
this
You
week,
got budget
Brian,
stuff
are you
going
sure?
on.
okay,
you're-
let's wrap this
I
one
think
up.
it should, I'm
think
shooting
it's
for
9 o'clock.
Friday, and I think worst case Monday, but I'm
Okay.
shooting for
Okay.
Friday.
So why don't we continue this meeting, or continue this hearing until, January the 8th
It's 7:30.
at 7:35, just so we have 5 minutes of crotch at the beginning.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to continue the hearing to January 8th at 7:35 PM.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So, there we are, 5-0.
Yep.
Thank you. And our apologies to whoever's waiting on us.
Can I get a half set of these, Brian? Instead of a full set?
Sure.
Can I borrow these for my conservation meeting and then give them back to you?
I think, yeah, I mean, it's,